Mark Montgomery here with Great College Advice, and I'm here to talk to you today about the most common dilemma that high school students face everywhere, and that is whether to focus on getting high grades or in taking hard classes. So let's dive right in. The dilemma here for every student is how to look his or her best, because we all know we're not perfect, so we want to at least try to look perfect, right? And we know that there are aspects to this process that are quite subjective. And one of those is the GPA. As I've talked about before, it's really hard to compare one school against another, one student against another, so it's kind of subjective. So since we can't always be perfect, maybe we can fake out those admissions people in some way. Maybe they will overlook, let's hope, they will overlook the poor grade in this AP calculus class because it's so hard. It's such a tough class. So I got a B, but maybe they'll think it's an A. They'll think I'm really great because I took the hard class. Or maybe I'll get that A in another class that's really lame and super easy, but they won't really notice that, and they'll just focus on the fact that I got an A and they'll be happy with that. Well, faking out, not really a good plan. It's also not really a good plan to try to fake yourself out with this process. One of the ways we do that is we start focusing on the weighted grades we might get in a particular class, and then what impact that has on the GPA, or the grade point average, cumulatively throughout the 4 years of high school. Because many schools, not all, but many schools will provide a little bit of extra weight, or an extra point, a half point, a full point, in the GPA if you take a hard class, like an AP class, an IB class, an honors class. There might be some other designations. And if you take that extra hard class, you get an extra boost in your GPA. So therefore, what students will tend to say is, well, I got a B in AP calculus, and that's like an A in any other class. So what I really got was an A. Isn't that right? Because if I get the extra point, then it must be really, a B must really be like an A. Right? Wrong. An A is an A, always and everywhere, and a B is a B, always and everywhere. Don't fake yourself out. I mean, you may have this idea that you want to fake out the admissions office, and that may be okay to at least think that way, but you cannot fake yourself out. An A is an A, B is an B. End of story. What are these admissions people then seeking when they're looking at your transcript? Well, of course, they're looking for the best students, and they're trying to figure out who among the students on their desk, in their application stack, is intellectually curious and academically capable of handling pretty much anything they may throw at them at that particular university. So they're looking for students who push themselves hard and succeed. They're looking for, they're looking for perfect students. They would really like to have perfect students. Now, most students are not perfect, so okay. But that's what they're really trying to find, those really great students who perform well. Therefore, your goal should be to take the hardest class and get an A in every single one of them. Because that's what they're really looking for, right? They're looking for that perfect student. Okay, but most of us are just good, all right? So forget the perfection for now. We know that the goal is to take the hard class and get the best grades. But then reality sits in. The real goal for you and for every student should be to get a good education. High school is free. For most of us who go to public schools, high school is free. So you need to take the best advantage you possibly can of your education. Full stop. Stop thinking about the future and getting into a good college, and think on the present. Take those challenges. Try your hardest in order to get the most out of high school. If your goal is just to get through high school, well, that's pretty darn easy, because the graduation requirements from high school, well, the bar is pretty low, actually. So if you want to just get through high school, you can do that. But if you're trying to go to college and try to be an educated person, then take those hard classes. Be a little bit, challenge yourself a little bit more. Be more brave. But finally, also think about this. Your only goal in education is not just to get into college. Your goal is to become an educated person. You want to learn how to write. You want to be numerically literate. You want to understand science. You want to understand the context of the world we live in, economics, history, politics, the psychology of human beings. I mean, there's so much to learn. So if your only goal is just to get into college, or if your goal is to just get through high school, I don't think you're focusing on the right thing. You got to focus on getting a good education. So let's move back to admissions. How do you stand out? Well, you need to take those really super challenging classes and you need to perform. Again, take the hard classes, get an A. But there's more to it. Not every student's going to do super well in every course, and you don't want to get a C, especially if you're looking for the most selective schools in the United States. A C in an admissions office is the equivalent of see ya, not going to happen. So you want to be careful not to mess things up too much. So you're seeking balance. So it's a question of balance. How hard can you push yourself without crumbling, without melting into a puddle of mush? You want to avoid stress in your life. You don't want to have the feelings that so many students have of inadequacy, of ineptitude. I can't do it, it's so hard. And they just hate high school. That's kind of a waste because you're going to spend 4 years in high school, so you might as well kind of try to enjoy it. However, enjoyment should also include the goal of pushing yourself harder in those areas that maybe you're really good at or maybe you really like. And maybe there are things that you're not quite so good at that maybe you can pull back a little bit so you can put all of your energies into the things that you really enjoy and that you're good at, and then maybe a little bit less in those subjects that not that much. But on the other hand, if you're aiming for the tippy top schools, full speed ahead in every area, as much as you possibly can. You cannot fool an admissions officer. They're going to have your school profile. The school profile, as I have explained before, is a document that goes with your transcript from your high school that explains and describes what is offered at your high school and how students are performing, generally speaking, at your school. What is the average GPA at your school? Just because you have a 4.0 doesn't mean that you're the best student. It's, at some schools a 4.0 is like a B average. It's like if you have a 4.0, you're like in the top 30% of your high school class, because there are people who have, because of all those weights, they've got closer to a 5.0. They've got a 4.89 as a top GPA in your school. So they're going to use this document to interpret your performance, and you can't fool them. They're going to compare your academic record against other students at your school. So if your school offers, 28 out of the 39 different subjects that the College Board offers those AP classes in, and the average number of AP classes that a student takes at your school is 5, and you took 1 AP class, you're below average. I don't care what you got in that AP class. If you're not taking a whole bunch of them and everybody else at your school is, well, then you're not working as hard as some of the other students at your school. They're going to rate, on some sort of scale, they're going to rate your curriculum that you have chosen. It might be on a 5-point scale, 1 being really a lame-o curriculum and 5 being a super duper difficult curriculum. It might be on a 9-point scale. I've seen that, 9, 7, 5, 3, 1, right? So a 9 is super, super rigorous, and a 1 is bleh, just barely getting through high school. You don't want the 1, you want the 7s and the 9s, if you can. They're going to rate it. They might even just do high, medium, low. But somehow they will judge whether or not you took the hardest classes available to you at your school. If you didn't, you're not going to get those extra brownie points. So what's the answer? Hard classes, good grades? Well, there's no formula. The reality is most of us are not perfect, and we have to make some decisions about how we're going to push ourselves and where. And each one of us is different. Each student is different. So you're going to have to make the decision that's right for you. You're going to have to examine your performance. You're going to have to examine your interests. You're going to have to examine the things that you do well in, and you're going to have to make a decision. But the rule doesn't change. The thing that can help you the most in focusing on what's important here is, again, thinking about what your education is really about. You have this opportunity to learn stuff, so take it. Push yourself to learn as much as you can without pushing yourself too hard. Many parents will remember, and this show is still on TV, it's The Price is Right, right? How close to guessing the price of an object or of an item can you get without going over? And that's kind of what you're trying to do here. You're trying to push yourself to the limit without going over. Because if you go over, you lose. If you go over, you stress yourself out. If you go over, you're going to make yourself miserable and high school is going to suck. But you want to push yourself enough just to the limit. Where is your limit? You know that. You know what you can do. You know what's possible. So go after what's possible and take the best possible advantage of your education, and the rest will take care of itself. So go out there, choose your courses, get good grades, work hard. It's all going to be fine. I'll see you in the next video.